Good morning, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you here. How are you all?
Good, thank you.
Amazing. Really good, thank you.
I think this is something special. For the listeners, I'll obviously let them know that I know you all independently, but I put a podcast group, ladies podcast panel group together, didn't I, about 3 months ago? I think it was now 2-3 months ago. And we've all got to know each other, and we've all got so much in common. And yeah, I'm just so excited. So I'd love it. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you all, if you wouldn't mind taking it in turns, doing a mini intro so the listeners can get to know you a bit, please. And we'll go with Anu first.
My name's Anu, and I'm the founder of Victim to Victor, which is a book, a podcast, and a whole platform dedicated for trauma survivors and to heal from childhood abuse and toxic relationships, because that's basically been my journey. And so I'm definitely now here to turn pain into purpose and power, and to help people to live their lives much better and to be fulfilled in their lives, exactly like I've done with mine. So really happy to be here today with you all, and I look forward to this conversation.
Thank you. It's great to have you here. Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol. I am a survivor of rape and domestic violence, and I have survived 2 forms of cancer along the way. I have an Instagram platform called Flare Survivor, and that is a support group for other survivors of rape and domestic violence to share their stories. I'm not a therapist, I am a lived experience person. And I am taking my pain and turning it into purpose, sharing my story in the hope that it inspires other people to get help, because it gives hope. Then you can actually have a life again, because I lost hope, and that was me not wanting to be here anymore. And I also have a community called Back to Basics, helping people get back in the kitchen, find their confidence, learn to cook from scratch, ditch the ready meals and the takeaways, and give yourself some time and save some money. So that's me.
Thank you, Carol. Great to have you here. Nikki?
Hello, my darlings. So my name is Nikki, obviously, and I'm a self-relationship coach for women. So I help women go from feeling lost to bossing it and start a business. My journey has been, so I was in a relationship for 20 years. I started in that relationship at 14 and I came out of it at 33. And the whole time I just gave myself to the relationship, sort of abandoned myself. And then when I did come out of it at the end, when I was 33, I was completely lost, didn't know who I was, didn't have a voice, didn't really know my identity. So I had to rediscover myself. So I spent the last 10 years plus figuring out who I am, trying to sort of find my voice, what I stand for, who I am. I'm a mother also of 4 children. And so that's what I want to now help women do, because I've just started a business. I'm at early days, and I help other women to find their voice, to see that they have got a lot of power
Hopefully
within
my
them
dogs
already,
will be quiet.
and just help them boss it in.
Bye. I'm Karen Caday. I'm a mum of 3, grandma to 2. I'm a speaker, fitness coach, and author in the #1 best-selling book series, Start Over. Founder of Happy You, Happy Body. I became a mum at 16. I rebuilt my life following an abusive marriage. I now live in Italy, learning Italian, and I share my story to inspire others, especially single mums, to heal, regain confidence, and grow through movement and self-belief.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Val?
Hi,
Last but
everyone.
not least.
My name's Bal Matharu. I'm gonna hope I don't freeze on you either. So yeah, dodgy internet connection here. So yeah, my name's Bal Matharu. I'm an advanced respiratory physiotherapist. Have been for over 25 plus years. I'm also a doctorate researcher in nervous system regulation, and I'm currently here in Mauritius embodying the work that I research. So I'm dialing in from quite a far distance.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you
So
thank you for having us
you're,
here.
you're more than welcome. I'm excited. The smile gives it away. So obviously I brought everybody here because we all have a lot in common. And certainly the more we've spoken, the more we've realised that as well. But I love the fact that everything that we've been through, Val can kind of see the other side of it and also can help with it. And my only regret is that I didn't meet you sooner, Val. I think there might be a slight delay on that one. But yeah, so yeah, the topic for today's panel podcast, because we're going to be doing lots of them, is trauma. So did anyone want to sort of give a bit of an insight on their take on trauma or something that they've experienced?
I don't mind starting off.
I don't.
For me, trauma, it has had a lasting effect, but I had trauma locked away inside of my head that I had not even realised was there. And it only came out when I was actually doing mindset work on myself. And I think mindset work is key to everything, because without sorting out what's going on up here, then there's no moving forward. It was literally a slippery slope to exit in this world, because that's where I had got to. My trauma had just left me isolated and doing things that I knew were going to kill me anyway. I was overeating, ordering takeaways. I never went in the kitchen because I had a lot of abuse and humiliation around the kitchen. So it had become a place that I hated. I felt useless in the kitchen. And so trauma left me morbidly obese, completely unable to walk more than maybe 20 or 30 steps. Had to have a wheelchair if I went anywhere with friends. They would put a wheelchair in the car. And I'd tried tablets, I'd tried counselling, I'd had CBT, I'd done EFT. None of it was actually getting to the point, because I wasn't actually talking about what had happened. I was just burying it even further. And my house became like a prison because I never left it on my own. And I don't think people realise just the effects that trauma has on you, on your body, on your mind. It is so, so difficult. And I'm sure, Bal, you'll have seen a lot like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, trauma. If I can just go back to the fact that what we feel trauma is, because trauma, often people think that it's the event itself, but trauma isn't the event. It's what happens to us, what our through the nervous system lens. It isn't the actual event, it's the processes within the body, because the body didn't feel safe enough at the time. It was just overwhelmed. It wasn't able to process what had happened because we didn't have the nervous system capacity, the support, the safety to process what was happening at the time. So we bury it, we suppress it, we repress it even, so we don't actually know what's going on. And for that reason, that trauma, because it's not been expressed or had a safe space to allow itself to come up, it then becomes what people like to call personality traits, but they're not, because they're actually responses stuck in our personality. They're adaptive or maladaptive responses. So for example, in fight, it could be that there was anger there, and now you have anger issues, control issues, urgency issues. In flight, it could be anxiety, overworking, restlessness. There's also freeze and fawn people pleasing, and just losing yourselves. So there's many things that we start projecting just because we haven't had the capacity or that safe space to express that trauma in any way. So that becomes, like I say, a maladaptive response.
And in my case, I have been diagnosed with CPTSD, but my brain, because of the number of years that I was in an abusive, I can't say relationship, I lived with an abuser. My brain is now rewired itself and is that of a neurodivergent person, which it was never before all of this happened. And studies have shown that that is the case with PTSD and CPTSD, that our brains actually do rewire themselves and we become like an ADHD brain. Our brains are totally rewired, and it's from a place of safety and hypervigilance and trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. I'm quite an urgent person in general. I put that down to being impatient, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I think I need a full week with Val, and then I'll figure it out. But I think I've definitely got. My mum will disagree with this, but I've definitely got some ADHD traits, because I've got so many things all on my plate all the time. Then I want to do more, and I'll start 3 or 4 things in the house. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it will be Teddy will come up and want a snack, so I have to stop what I'm doing to go and do that. But then before I know it, I've got 3, 4, 5 unfinished things done in my house, and it's like, my brain just doesn't stop ever. The only time I stop thinking is when I'm asleep. So yeah, that could well be, but maybe another time to unpack that one, Val. But Nikki or Karen, did you want to go on?
Sorry, I was just going to say, to the hypervigilance, it could be like you've got an overactive limbic system response. So every little thing is triggering you off. Every little thing is setting you to say, where's the danger in this? Because your body is ultimately looking for danger to keep you safe. So you've got probably what's called a hypervigilant limbic system response, and that is then tamed by bringing safety within your system. So how can you actually nurture safety in your system? How can you let your body know and rewire? We've got this wonderful thing called neuroplasticity now that we know, and neuroplasticity is rewiring the brain and dumbing down or reducing down those hypervigilant responses to actually go down the road of creating more safety responses. So when you would normally react to something very quickly, you could actually train yourself to not feel so responsive at that point. But it all comes down to, how do you nurture that safety within the body first and foremost?
Okay, thank you. So Karen, what would your take on trauma be?
Well, I wasn't diagnosed with CPTSD until I was about 10 years out of my abusive marriage, and I'd managed it quite successfully in those 10 years because I was so into my fitness and because I'd done the bikini fitness contest. But I think I threw myself into everything and anything that I could, especially when it involved movement and music. I took up yoga because of doing the bikini fitness, and I've read the book The Body Keeps the Score, and it says one of the best things you can do for yourself with CPTSD is yoga, self-care, and I was meditating. I just started learning to meditate. So I think I was already doing all the things that they recommend that you do when I was diagnosed with it. It's just that I then went on to have therapy, and I was advised to get therapy because I probably wouldn't have done. I'd said to myself that my exercise is my therapy, but it wasn't enough. I was having panic attacks, but I didn't recognise them as being panic attacks. I didn't even think I was an anxious person, but I was definitely having panic attacks because I had to go to hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack, especially during my divorce. I thought I was having a heart attack and had to be rushed to hospital. But I was told that because I'd already run the marathon and stuff, that the doctor said I had the heart of an athlete. So it definitely wasn't my heart. I was having panic attacks because I was reliving stuff that I'd shut away, I buried deep, and I didn't want to visit them. I didn't want to know about it. I did it in my marriage, so of course I was going to do it when I came out of my marriage because I was surviving, and I was so desperate not to go back to what I'd spent years trying to escape. So yeah, that's like my take on it. And having therapy definitely helped. I had 2 lots of therapy. One was intensive CBT, and the other one was energy healing, which is a little bit woo-woo, but it worked. Although I was told I should have had it the other way round. So I did the energy healing first whilst I was on an 8-month waiting list for intensive CBT, and then I had the intensive CBT after that. and it was good. It was good. I had a man, and I wasn't sure how I was going to be with a man because I had to talk about a lot of sexual stuff. But I pushed through, and I thought, do I trust him? And then after a few sessions, I did, and I'm really glad that I had it with a man, because I think it helped me then move to Italy, move in with my husband, because I hadn't lived with a man for over 10 years. It's like it did help me learn to trust a man. I was going to have to trust my new husband and living with him. Yeah, I think it all worked out as it was meant to.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you might have had a different path if it had been a woman, because you already felt safe with one, right? So if you hadn't have had that, you might not be where you are now. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I was going to say, it's really refreshing as well to hear that CBT was really effective for you, because I've spoken to many survivors who say otherwise. So that's actually really nice to hear, actually, because it is actually the #1 treatment as well, isn't it, for complex PTSD in the UK, according to the guidelines here. And yeah, I just think that's really amazing.
Well, I'd heard of EDMR. Is it EDMR?
EMDR.
Yeah, I'd heard of that, and because I've helped in surviving the ex-narcissist group for many years, so I knew all the different therapies that were out there. I was just open to trying them and seeing how it went. And I think because I was coming up to almost moving to Italy and giving up everything, including my children that are in England. They're grown up children, by the way. They're not young.
Yeah.
My youngest is 22. My eldest is 41 now. So my children all decided to stay in England. I was going to move away and I needed to have distance between me and my ex-husband, I felt, in order for me to fully heal. And I've been here for 3 years. I've been in the sunshine. I've gone for long beach walks. I still do meditating. I do dancing. I do my exercise. I do all the things that keep me and my brain and myself. I feel safe within myself.
Yeah.
It's really good to hear that you had 2 of the 3 main therapy types. So there's medicine management, which is the pills and what you consume. Then there's
wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do the pills. Only because I'd suffered from postnatal depression after I had my last child, and that's when I got into exercise, because I was given the choice: exercise or take antidepressants, and I chose exercise.
So you chose exercise. So that's
Good.
So the second type is time. So basically, talk therapy, talking through the time of what's gone on and the events that have happened. So that's talk therapy. And the third one is somatic body therapy. So it sounds like you embrace the two. And somatic therapy now has got a lot of evidence base behind it, and emerging evidence showing that it is actually so super effective. And what we do in terms of movement allows our fascia to move, which is where a lot of the stories and the subconscious kind of tightness is held in. So once we get our fascia moving, we can start releasing some of these kind of hidden traumas and hidden tightness, I should say, or constriction within our bodies.
Yeah, I think that's where yoga played a big part. Also, dancing played a big part. Listening to music played a big part. Meditation played a big part. And I only started with 1 minute of meditation. And then I went up, I was training to be a Kundalini yoga teacher. So I ended up doing a whole 1 day white tantric meditation, back-to-back meditation, 2.5 hour long Ekkonkar. I've sat with myself for long periods of time. Amazing. And I think
that sounds really good, really refreshing.
It does, doesn't it? And Kundalini is actually the most effective out of all the yogas, because I struggled with the normal yoga. Like I just couldn't stay in positions like the warrior position. You know, I just felt so uncomfortable. Whereas I find that with Kundalini, it really, you know, embraces like your whole body, and you know, you can really, breath work.
Yeah,
I've never even heard of that. Yeah, I've never heard of that, but I have done yoga a few times. Meditation I've just managed to crack. I started it about 3 years ago, and I just couldn't take it seriously. I just couldn't. But I also think that was my lack of understanding of it. Like, am I going to sit there still without, thinking about 4,000 things at once? Not really going to happen. So I'd try it and then I give up. Whereas now and certainly since I met Bao as well, with all the breath work and the different things, I've sort of dipped my toe into a lot of stuff, but I haven't committed to it. Whereas now I speak to Bao on a regular basis, follow her Instagram. It's almost a little slap. Come on, Louise, you should be doing this. A verbal one, obviously, but no, I think it's brilliant, and I love the fact that we've all got we've got similar stories, but also how we've managed to add all these things into our lives. Like Karen, the fact that you were kind of doing most of the stuff that when you were finally diagnosed you were told to do is really, really incredible. I think
it is.
I think I was already surviving. I was trying to thrive. I was trying to survive. I was trying to get my children therapy. When I think about how many plates I was trying to spin, I don't think I allowed myself to even, think about anything too much, because I just was surviving and I just had to stay well and look after myself to enable myself to work. I tried to get out of the marriage for so many years. I was so grateful for getting out of it that's what I kept holding on to. Gratitude. I just kept saying, thank you. I was pinching myself like so much, saying, I'm out of that. I felt so incredibly lucky to have got out.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely. I think we're all probably guilty of just keeping on, keeping on, and find different purposes. I, for one, used to just help as many more people as I could, so I didn't actually have to face what was happening with me. And I've done a post about. I'm doing a post about that soon. Because it is. I would joke, like I'd be the joker and make other people laugh, because that would mask my pain. And I would be helping everybody else. Like, I didn't have a problem. Like, everything in my life was perfect. I'm going to fix everybody else. And again, mask my pain and mask what's going on. And then one day you just realise, don't you? But what about you, Nikki? Did you want to add to this? I'm sure you've got lots you can help the listeners with.
Yeah, well, I had, for me, just going back to my early days, I was raised, just to give you a bit of background, I was raised by a single parent. My mum was four of us in our house. We grew up quite poor. We didn't have a lot of money at all. We struggled a lot when we were younger, and we didn't have a male. I had my granddad, wasn't really an authoritative figure in our lives. He'd come and support us, but I didn't have a really strong male figure. So when by getting into a relationship when I was 14, I really embraced having a man there, that male love, feeling loved by a man. And I did feel very loved by my mum and everything like that. So when I got into this relationship, I clung on to it with everything that I had. I'd been around violence. I'd seen people, in abusive relationships before. My mum had had relationships that weren't the best, just not long-term ones, but short-term. And I'd just been in the neighbourhood that I grew up in. There was a lot of violence, a lot of just not the best way of life, really. And so when I got into my relationship, it was normal that there was a little bit of violence there. It wasn't a lot of violence all the time, but there was a tiny bit, and it was quite toxic. And looking back, obviously, I know that now, but it was just normal to me to have that kind of relationship, because I'd seen it, and it was just part of life. And my partner at the time, I had children, but he'd had been messing around, he'd had affairs with other people. I had known about it, but I'd let it slide because I was so hell-bent on having this relationship and making it work, and having a mum and a dad for my children, so that they'd not come from a broken home like I had. So when my relationship did eventually end, I didn't want it to, because I was still in a bit of a state where I was, I sort of ignored what was going on, I think, and I was quite very vulnerable in thinking that he would change and that things would get better and that we would have this lovely, happy life at some point. And obviously that was going on in my mind. But during the whole process of being with him, I'd helped him with his business, build his business. I'd helped him with his life. I spent a lot of time with his family, and his family were really lovely. But I just completely abandoned myself and abandoned anything that I wanted to do, or I didn't go out with friends quite a lot. I had my sister as a very strong person who's been there throughout my life, very, all the time. I speak to her all the time, and she's been the person that she was always trying to get me to do stuff, to go places. But I was like, oh no, I'm here, I'm the mum, I'm the partner, this is my job now. And so when I came out of the relationship, I was, like I said, I was completely lost. And just the thing that really did help me was journaling. I spent a lot of time writing about my experiences, writing about how I felt about him, writing about just my thoughts. I got everything out of my head onto paper, and I spent a lot of time talking to my sister, telling her everything, and just having that somebody to listen to without advising me. She didn't tell me, she just listened to what I said and offered her little bits, her little insights, but nothing that was saying you need to do this or you should be doing that. But for me, I think processing all of that, it helped me to understand myself, to figure out that I actually was really important and that I was very much worthy as I was. I didn't need to be anything better. And to understand the type of relationship that I'd been in was very toxic, and that it had harmed me, and it had suppressed me from developing who I was. And obviously I'd gone from being a 14-year-old girl in this relationship to a woman of 33 coming out of it. So during that time I hadn't been able to, or I'd not allowed myself to develop as a person on my own independently. I'd only developed as a partner, as a mother in that relationship. So coming out of it, I explored what it meant to be me, what it meant to be Nikki, without being a mum, without being a partner, just me, what I felt, what I thought, what I wanted out of life, and what I believed in, because I didn't stand up for what I believed in. I didn't have a voice. And so now this is me obviously coming out and standing up for myself, being proud of what I believe in, without feeling that I need to hide myself or that I'm not good enough. And so I think a biggest part of that has been, I have meditated, and I have spent a lot of time on my own thinking about what I am, what I want out of life, thinking about who I am and the things that I'm happy about in life, the things that I don't want to happen. Just been I've allowed myself to process what I've experienced and what is okay for me in my life. And as I said, I do a lot of meditation, and I do write a lot, I journal a lot. And I think those are the two things, especially the journaling, have been a significant part of me being able to come to where I am today, within myself, being strong with myself, being happy
amazing,
with
Nikki.
who I am.
I think your journaling should
knowing
become
that
a book.
It's fine to be as
like
I am.
A self-help book for all the other women going through a similar situation to what you have. You touched on a really important subject, and I think most of us ladies can relate. You forget who you are. When your wife or mum or whatever trauma you're going through, or whatever scenario you're in, you always put ourselves last and everybody else first. One thing that I learned probably in the last maybe 4 years, that I have to look after me in order to be a really good mum. And that's something that was never ever really in my mind, let alone at the forefront. But yeah, I think you're incredible, Nikki. All you ladies are incredible, but yeah, I think you're better off on your own, because then you don't have anyone draining your joy.
Yeah.
But what about you, Anu? Did you want to add some?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, in terms of my trauma, it did start from quite a young age, and I've just lived my whole life just living in a trauma response state. So, Belle, you mentioned about the freeze, fight, and flight and fawn responses, and that was literally all my life. So if I wasn't like in freeze state, which was like shutting down, dissociating, and just not expressing myself because I didn't feel worthy enough to even express myself. I just felt like I was a piece of poo on someone's shoe. That's how I felt about myself. And so it just meant that like people took advantage of me. I was entering into these real toxic relationships where I was being controlled, manipulated, and abused, mainly emotionally. I mean, I did get a few punches from one of my partners, but he mainly liked to punch the walls, which was great because obviously he smashed the walls. Thank God it wasn't my face. But it was the emotional abuse that was the most damaging. And so then I realized that, I was sick of being that vulnerable, naive, innocent young girl. So then I started to flight. So I started to like run away from my issues, and I got really obsessed with traveling. And the reason why I did that was because, as well as an escape response, I was overworking. I was overworking, which meant I was bringing in loads of money. So I had loads of money in the bank. I didn't know what the heck to do with it. So I just blasted it on traveling and going on extravagant holidays. And everyone thought that I was having the time of my life. Like, I remember my family friends saying, God, you're so successful. I'm thinking, no, I'm actually not. I'm actually really struggling here. I really, I don't even want to be here. I'm just like, I'm just escaping in whichever way or form I could. Not to mention escape through toxic substances like drugs and alcohol, whatever I could find. So, like, if I wasn't working, then I'd just go out and just like get annihilated on, whatever substances I could find. I lived in Manchester at the time, so everything was available there. There was loads of drug dealers, and I'd end up in A&E a few times as well because I was just living a very reckless life. And so yeah, I did get to travel. I guess that was a positive that came out of it. I went to visit loads of beautiful countries, and but this is how crazy my travel experiences were. Within 4 months, I took 36 flights. So you can imagine the escape. It was just like I was just flying all over the place. And I was like staying overnight. I was actually sleeping in airports in Indonesia. And yeah, reflecting back, I got to see some beautiful places, but I was struggling mentally. I was in a real bad state, like mentally and emotionally, and I still hated myself. And so yeah, it was a real journey to overcome all of that, to be fair. And I really resonate with Karen and what she said about the fact that it was like she tried CBT and energy healing, but for me it was like I tried CBT, but because I never knew what I was talking about, I never knew what I wanted to express in those sessions. They became a bit of a waste of time because I blocked a lot of my trauma. And it was only through energy healing, through Reiki and emotional freedom therapy work that a lot of the trauma started to come out. And it came out in tears mainly, first of all. And it took time for me to actually even understand that, oh my God, yeah, I was sexually abused. And then I was getting flashbacks as well of, my abuser when I was as young as 3, and, me having to give him fellatio. And is that how you pronounce it? Fellatio. Well, I like to say that word rather than the other word because that can be quite, it can sound quite traumatizing to a lot of people. And so it was through the flashbacks and smells. I could smell him as well. And then that's when a lot of it started to make sense. And it took me years to understand the sequence of events. And then I was journaling at the time. So I know that, you mentioned journaling, Nikki, and that really worked for me because then rather than, me being in that threat zone, which is obviously the amygdala functioning, by writing it enabled me to then make logic of it all. And we all know it's a prefrontal cortex that is then able to make sense of the events so that you're not living in that fear state anymore. And that absolutely transformed my whole way of thinking because then I wasn't blaming myself anymore. I didn't think that I was a piece of poo on someone's shoe. And I started to understand, that I was actually really hurt. I was struggling from PTSD, and all my actions up until that point were trauma responses. And because of that, because of my journaling, I was able to then create a whole book out of it as well. And that became the start of my real healing. It was actually putting all that into a book and getting it out there and podcasting about it as well, because I found the more I spoke about stuff, then the more I was healing as well, because then it wasn't triggering me so much. And and that's why I say to everyone that, we need to be able to eventually talk about it, because that's where the real healing happens. So and here we are today.
Thanks, you're
I think journaling seems to be, because that's something that my life coach got me to start doing, journaling and finding gratitude. So I think that's a fairly common theme amongst us, the journaling side of things, just taking everything from here and just putting it down onto paper. And it really sort of helps. You look at the words and you can make sense of what is whizzing around your head. You can see it on paper and you can deal with it better.
Yeah, it's almost like
better out than in.
As well, isn't it? Sorry, Karen?
It's better out than in. So many trauma survivors do not speak about what they've been through because they're scared to admit it to themselves. So it's a secret that they keep within them. And I'd read a book called The Choice by Edith Edgar, and she said, your secrets become trapped trauma. Yeah. And that's when I started speaking out about it. And then it was like a floodgate opened of all the things that I'd been keeping internally, thinking they're embarrassing, they're this, I'm ashamed, all of that stuff. Just said, no, I have to speak about it. I have to acknowledge it. It can't stay inside of me because I'll become unwell. Why should I keep that shame to me? And now I know it's the shame doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the perpetrator. It belongs to the abuser. And we've got to speak up. We've got to find our voices because we're protecting the next woman. Whereas a lot of women go to the grave. Yeah, they go to the grave with this stuff. They never speak about it because they're too embarrassed because they've been taught all their life to shut it, to be quiet, to shush. Nobody wants to hear your bad stories. No one wants to hear what you've been through. No one cares. That's what you think, but actually, we have
dirty laundry in public is another great one that stops people talking.
But it's their dirty laundry, not ours.
I know, but you take that guilt on. Well, I certainly took that guilt on as well. And that stopped me speaking for 6.5 years before I actually told someone.
Wow.
And now look at us all.
Talking about it.
Doing podcasts and talking, and you're right. The more we talk about it, the less triggering it is for us, and the more hope we're giving to other people who haven't found their voices yet. That's the important thing.
Do you know one thing I wanted to say actually? Don't get me wrong, my life's not perfect, and I don't think anyone's ever will be.
No.
But since I've started doing Brave Every Day, and since I've started sharing my story and really putting my feelings out there on social media, and obviously getting to meet great people, I'm so much happier in myself.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I am. I'm stronger for it, and I'm happier for it. So
good.
I just thought I'd share that with you, ladies.
That's amazing.
That's really good. I think there's still such a stigma around these traumas that women experience. And the thing is that we're carrying our traumas, but we're also carrying intergenerational traumas. Through studies of epigenetics, we're seeing more and more that we've got ancestral traumas that we're carrying as well. So it gets to a point where you're literally you've got so much stress and trauma on you that you're just going to react to everything coming in your direction, and you're not authentic. You're not in touch with your authentic self. So it's about how much can you offload, how much can you, and whatever way that is, whether it's talk therapy, whether it's journaling, whether it's somatic work, how much can you then start offloading to actually get to the authentic you, because that's when things start changing for you.
Yeah, no, you're so right, and it's I don't think I held back. I think there was a certain part of me with the domestic violence side of my story that sort of probably didn't want to, and I won't name and shame because of that protection. Obviously I've got a little boy, and that kind of makes sense, but also my family, because it was everything that's happened was before my husband that I'm sort of discussing. So I needed to make sure that my mum, my dad and my brother are okay with me sharing. because it was them that was impacted the most. And as soon as they were like, go for it, I literally went for it. And and now there's just, I mean, I'm smiling. When I actually recorded my story, I cried twice, and both times I cried was when I was talking about the impact it had on the people I love. None of it was because of anything to do with, do you know what I mean? And I think that's powerful in itself, because you ladies know me. I'm a really soppy lady, and I've got a very good inside, and I do, if I'm sad, I will cry. But it just goes to show how far I've come. That the only time I did cry in that hour and 15 minutes was when I was talking about the people I love, not actually what happened. So yeah, I think we're all growing, aren't we? We're all growing. We're all a lot stronger together too.
Did you want to give your insight on trauma, Louise?
My insight on trauma? Well, yeah, I think, like I said, I think I buried things for a long time. And it wasn't until I got to a certain stage in my life doing a lot of self-development and soul-searching that I had the confidence to then really start looking at what was stressing me out, all the things that have happened in the past that I wasn't really ever thinking about as such, or certainly not on the surface. And just, I did a lot of work on me because I had really high blood pressure, and I was getting stomach ulcers, which I've spoken to Val in length about. And then I did some private tests from a company in London. So they go through, exactly the rights and wrongs. GPs are great, but they only go to a certain level. And it was proved that it wasn't that I drank too much. It wasn't that I ate the wrong things. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like a glass of wine sometimes, and I do eat chocolate. But generally, my diet, I eat well. I eat healthy, good food. So it was proved that it wasn't the easy route, that I couldn't just change my diet slightly or slow down the drinking, because that wasn't a problem. It was because I didn't drink too much or anything. It was stress. So I had to go, right, what on earth is going on with me? What can I change? What do I need to actually unwrap? Who's stressing me out? What's stressing me out? And act accordingly. And now I'm a different person. I'm talking on a camera with 5 amazing ladies. You wouldn't have got me on a camera 3 years ago. It would never have happened. I would have gone, I'll do it, and messaged you and gone, I can't do it.
Oh, really interesting.
Yeah.
Fear.
I've built the confidence myself, and it's by pushing, like my tagline, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action despite it. I've pushed myself, but I also think I'm more carefree now. I used to be terrified of saying the wrong thing or upsetting someone, or for fear of judgment and what other people think. And now I don't actually care, unless you're a friend or a family member or someone that I work with and have done for a long time. Your opinion doesn't matter, and it's none of my business.
True.
Perfect. And how's your blood pressure?
My blood pressure is
I had to
brilliant.
ask.
Yeah, no, Karen just went like this, and it made me laugh.
I'm not shivering, I think.
Yeah, my blood pressure is brilliant. Really, really good. I've been medication free for 3 years. I was on medication for 2 years. And then I decided, and I was doing work in the background, but it obviously doesn't happen overnight, does it? But yeah, I was like, right, I don't want to be on medication. What can I do to fix it? So away I went.
I love that. Yeah. I love that you've picked that up, because again, there's so much mapping that's now gone on to certain types of trauma causing or predisposing you to certain types of conditions in the body as well. And it's been mapped out really well. There's a particular author, Yvette Rose, who's wrote Metaphysical Anatomy, and it's like a 700-page book, and it shows you the emotions associated with conditions like grief, for example. Grief can cause a lot of respiratory and heart problems. Things like anger stored in the gut can cause gut problems. And they've even actually narrowed it down to a particular area within the gut as well, where some of the sphincters are, certain types of repressed emotions. So a lot of mapping's been done, musculoskeletal problems down to devaluing yourself and holding too much. And they're quite, if you look at it, they're quite logical. So, if your shoulders are feeling heavy and you're finding you've got achy shoulders, but you're devaluing yourself, it's like you're carrying too much. It makes logical sense. And that's basically they've mapped out the entire body to emotions. So it's really this work is really important to ensure that you get to the bottom of trauma, or anything that you're classing as trauma, anything that's been held where your love and safety needs haven't been met, needs to basically be given safe space to be able to express itself or alchemize itself to a way that it's not restricting your tissues anymore to be able to cause that condition or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
definitely. I think. Go on.
Oh yeah. So because obviously, you know, the body keeps the score, and I know that there's a lot of chronic illnesses that you know, there's a massive link with trauma. So what's your views on like cancer, for example, and trauma?
How much attention do we pay to our bodies? We don't. And cancer, aggressive cancer, is usually asking for you to come back to your body. And a lot of work by Dr. Joe Dispenza has been done in this area. And I'm quoting off his work here, so none of this is mine. It's basically from stuff that I've read of his, is that it's a way of your body asking for your attention. Come back to the body where you've neglected it so much. So how can you then bring your attention, your awareness back to something that you've neglected, that supported you your whole life? So it's asking for urgent attention back on your body.
That makes sense.
Interesting.
Does make
It
sense.
does, doesn't it?
Yeah. And why it's so important to look after your body and treat yourself the way that you wish you were always treated. Love yourself the way that you wish that you were loved, and look after yourself like you're the most expensive thing that you own, because you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Really well said, Karen. Yeah, that's really well put as well. And I'm just going to really quickly, if you don't mind, just going to share the whole trauma that I experienced was actually around COVID. So I was working in intensive care and working along kind of long COVID projects, community care, preventing people from going into hospitals. And I just remember the heartache that came out of that time. And I often found myself crying going home and crying going into work. And then we were working 70-hour weeks, and all we were seeing were people so unwell. And we were sometimes the last people that these patients were seeing. And we were holding iPads up to these patients so they could say goodbye to their family members. It was horrendous. And I remember coming out of 2 years of working like that thinking, well, not thinking, I think I was just so disillusioned, just completely delusional in terms of who I was, what my role was, why was I in the NHS? And I questioned everything I did. Why were we not saving people? What was our role? Maybe we weren't good enough. And yeah, it just became a point of a self-inquiry process where I felt I just wasn't able to work in the NHS after that. So I actually did come out of the NHS after 25 years service, and just went down the road of doing what I'm doing right now, which is helping women basically reverse, or should I say, change the narrative on their health. And that is through nervous system regulation, that they can then, anything that they've acquired, they can also start unacquiring it, or maybe even reducing their medication down and start coming more into their authenticity just by doing some of this nervous system work.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Val. I was going to ask you actually about obviously your time, because we've done it on your podcast, but having obviously you ended up with trauma because of you helping other people with their trauma, right? And that's got to be a hell of a lot, because you and Carol have got a lot in common, because Carol worked for the NHS for a long time, didn't you, Carol?
I did, 30 years.
Wow.
Wow.
And that also helped you, didn't it? Because to an extent, because you could pretend a bit more at work.
I put on my uniform and I became someone that I recognised and that I liked, and that I was confident in that uniform, because he knew nothing about nursing or medical things, so he couldn't enter my mind, my world when I was at work. And I felt safe and I felt valued. I was really good at what I did. I really was. And I loved looking after people, but I wasn't looking after myself at all. I was putting dressings on cigarette burns. While I was at work, I would take dressings and put them on in the toilets, and hiding it from everyone else. But that uniform just gave me a little bit of peace away from what was happening at home that I wasn't prepared to share with anyone, because I thought it was all my fault anyway.
You were safe there too, weren't you? You were safe whilst you're at work. You were safe.
Yeah,
I can relate to that. I can relate to that as well. And never has a 12-hour shift been more needed than when I was with that person.
Exactly.
It was 12 hours of,
peace.
Then when he left me, it was like, I don't even know how to get myself dressed, because nobody's telling me what clothes to wear, because I had to wear what he said. And I was, like Nick said, I was lost. I didn't know anything. I felt useless. And that's exactly what he always said, I was useless. And so finding
Programmed you.
all these things was really difficult. And again, like Karen, my life coach was a man, a male.
Wow.
And I was very safe. It was somebody that I had known, not as a friend, but as an acquaintance. And when he started doing life coaching and opening up places to people, it was like, right, okay, maybe this is worth it. Because at that point, I had a bottle of insulin, I had a goodbye note all written, because I was already on Prozac, temazepam, and was taking them during the day. So I was like a zombie, but it meant I didn't have to go into my head and deal with anything else. I was having something called targeted chemo, but I wasn't doing my part. I wasn't eating healthy. I wasn't trying to walk. It was painful. And I just thought, if that's my life, I don't want it anymore. I really don't. But I can't leave here if I haven't tried everything, because that wouldn't be fair to the people I'm leaving behind, is how I was thinking of it. So, yeah. And I'm so glad that I did find that day happened, and that life coaching literally turned my life around.
Fantastic.
Look at us all.
So
finding gratitude, because I wasn't grateful for anything. And I should have been.
Exactly.
I should have been grateful that I was on a drug trial in the first place. I should have been grateful that he left me, because I would have probably been dead from domestic violence. I would have been a statistic if he hadn't. But I couldn't see any of that. Well, there wasn't a spark of light in that life, in that world. And now look at all of us here. Just amazing. I mean, it's fate that has brought us all together.
It is.
Definitely.
You were going to say something, Karen.
No, I was just going to say that your partner programmed you to believe that you were useless, and you took it in. You took it on, like you can shut things out that people were saying, but if you take it on board, that's what you did, and so you became what you were told that you were over and over. You were programmed, and thank God you then found the antidote. Well, thank God he left you, and thank God you then found somebody else that was going to reprogram you with much better programming, like a life coach that can help you to, think much better. And you did. Look at you. Fantastic. It's really good to hear. And believing in yourself.
Yeah, that's it. My ex used to try, and obviously he beat me every time physically, because there was no possible way I could have really done a lot. He was a lot bigger than me. But he used to try and belittle me, and the more the time went on, I remember one day he said to me, he asked me how to spell about 10 words one day, bearing in mind he wasn't working, and that was why I was allowed to go to work, because if I lost my job, who was paying for everything? He asked me how to spell these 10 words this one day, and then he called me thick, and I went, "You're calling me thick? You're the one that's asked me how to spell 10 words today." Oh dear, did I pay for that one? But you know what? I'm glad I did. I was like, no, do you know what? You're already trying to take over everything. You're already, winning physically, I'm not having you try to belittle me as well. So yeah, as I said, I became numb to it towards the end, and I used to answer back, and if he'd ask me something, or if he'd start on me verbally, I'd say something back as well. I think I just had enough by that point.
Good. Good.
And it's objective. They call you what they actually think about themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Mirror.
I mean, I'm different things, but I definitely don't think I'm thick.
No,
you're not thick.
but he wanted you to believe that you were, even though that's
I know.
rejection. So
Yeah,
thank God you didn't let that in, or you were at a point in your life where you weren't going to listen to him anyway. You'd already started, opening your eyes.
I'm not sure whether I either switched in my head and decided I wasn't going to take it anymore, or I was just so numb to everything that was going on that I just almost was forgetting who I was talking to. I don't know. Either way, I'm smiling about it now because I want to go on, girl, when I hear me sort of answering back. Because also the whole answering back thing, you're not answering back if you're talking to another adult, are you? Like, the whole answering back thing is a load of rubbish. That's what you say to children. Not that I would ever say that to my son, because he's brilliant and doesn't do that. But I think we're in a much better generation now where we let our children talk. Women are allowed to be, heard. There was a saying years ago, wasn't there? Children should be seen and not heard. Who's heard that one?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Who on earth said that?
Somebody who was trying to silence children. They wanted to silence children that then silenced adults. And that's why a lot of us keep everything in, because we were taught as children to shut up.
Yeah.
And not say what we think. We're not allowed
to. Yeah, that's why a lot of women tend to have thyroid issues, is because they weren't allowed to express themselves and their voices got caught up in their throat, and that's blocked their throat, and hence a lot of emotion, and that manifests as thyroid issues.
That is so true.
Yeah.
So then the chakras. So I've done a lot of chakra clearing because of obviously the Kundalini yoga, and maybe that's what's helped me. Plus I've done public speaking course that helped me to be able to speak and to be able to say out loud some of the stuff that's happened, and then write my books. My first book wasn't about what I'd been through, it was purely about fitness. I had to teach other women how to look after their bodies. I called it Happy You, Happy Body, because I knew that happiness within. Yeah, that's how we met.
That's how we met, 2007.
But I didn't realise.
Just listening to all your stories, the amount of experiences you guys have been through, honestly, it's an honor to be sitting in this podcast and just listening to your experiences, and you guys talk about them, because I think that's coming back to the name of the podcast. That is being brave, because being brave isn't about running away from yourself. It's about sitting there and really saying, whatever it is, I'm going to choose not to run away, but to address it. That's being brave. And I think you guys embrace that. So it's an honor to be sitting here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be sat here with all of you, and you, Val. Like, you're so amazing, and all your knowledge, and you're so helpful within the group as well, with all of us, with certain things that come up, and we're all brilliant in our own right. And I'm going to give you all a big cuddle. Is there anything that you want to add? Oh, sorry, Karen. There's a slight time delay.
A big round of applause. Whenever I used to do a workout, I always used to clap myself and congratulate myself, because a lot of reason why women won't work out is because they don't particularly like it. They don't want to go through the pain of the working out. And I just say, don't beat yourself up for what you don't do. Congratulate yourself for what you do, because that will make you want to do it again.
Yeah.
So true.
Like that.
Yeah.
I might just clap myself randomly now just for doing the washing up.
Well done.
Let's just clap each other and ourselves.
That might make me want to do it more, though, because I hate doing the washing up.
Well, clapping's supposed to be therapeutic anyway. There's been studies on it. Clapping, You know, prayer
That's
is
true.
really good, putting our hands together, and we come back to energy. And like, there's so many small things that we don't even have to pay for, that we can do for ourselves, that will make the biggest difference on our mental health and our physical health. You know, just going for a walk in nature is amazing. Hence why I go beach walking as many mornings as I can in the sunrise.
Oh.
Not
I love
everyone's
that, Karen,
close
because
to the beach, though, Karen.
I,
Not everyone is as close to a beach, Karen.
no,
Yeah.
this is true. This is true. But I've got to say, Karen, I think you've nailed it there. You've just talked about embodiment work, which is what I'm learning over here. And one of the things that we're picking up is just simple daily things like what you just mentioned, just putting your hands together. And when you press your hands together, you actually are reconnecting all your energy systems. So it's
Wow.
amazing. Just little things like that. And it's coming back to the basics of who we are once we unshed all the layers that we've learned and just come back to our basics. We're then more in connection again with our authenticity as well. So thank you for raising that.
I learned about mudras. You know, there's
Yeah.
mudras that help with different things. Wisdom. So if you ever want to get in contact with your inner wisdom, you just put your first finger to thumb. That's inner wisdom. And then there's patience, communication, and I think clarity might be one of them. I'll have to go back through the work that I've done. But there's just so many simple things. And the breath, like how we breathe. But why is it that we don't know that actually, if you control your breath, you can control everything within yourself? And hence why I was having panic attacks, because I was shallow breathing.
Yeah.
But actually, if I learned to do long, deep, slow breathing, that helps you to come back to yourself. So whenever you're feeling panicky, it's because you're shallow, like catch yourself. What am I doing? Why am I feeling lightheaded? Why am I feeling panicky? It's because I'm not breathing properly. If I just slow my breath, take it all the way down to my belly button and beyond, and fill up my lungs and start breathing, I come back to myself and I calm myself down. And that's what I learned to do. And my panic attacks
perfect.
gone.
70% of people are dysfunctionally breathing at the moment, which is unbelievable statistics. So what we're doing is just increasing our whole system to be in stress mode all the time without even doing anything, just by the way we're breathing. And if we can correct that one thing and breathe properly, like you've just mentioned there, exactly how you've just mentioned there, the better. The more we can actually pay awareness just for a minute every now and then. Oh, how am I breathing? Where am I breathing into? Am I breathing into my chest, into my diaphragm? Are my shoulders relaxed? Are my shoulders up into my ears? Am I breathing through my nose? Am I breathing through my mouth? Because obviously nose breathing is better. Just little few things like that. And you can pay awareness to it. Then you've got more of a chance of reducing the stress load.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. I think you've created a group of clappers now, Karen.
Happy clappers.
Happy clappers.
Yeah,
And
happy clappers.
if you smile first, like people think that you have to be happy to smile, but you don't. You smile, and the happy hormones get released, and that creates the happiness. So even if you're feeling sad and you want a quick pick me up, just smile. Force yourself to smile. You can put a pencil in your mouth and make yourself smile, and then that way that releases the endorphins that tricks your brain into thinking that you are happy, and then you become happy.
Wow.
Oh, I love that. I think all the listeners are going to take away a hell of a lot from this chat. Nikki, did you want to say something? Sorry.
It was just coming back to, I was going to mention about the thyroid thing, Val, that you mentioned, which was interesting because after I'd had my daughter, I'd had a lot of, obviously I'd kept my mouth shut. I'd been quiet within my relationship, not happy. And as you know, I didn't sort of speak my truth. I wasn't very outspoken, but I had nodules on my thyroid, and I had a massive lump in my throat. Well, it wasn't massive; it felt massive. That I felt, and for a while I was going back and forth to the doctor because they said that it was, there were nodules on my benign nodules on my thyroid. And I'd had a family history of it was on my mum's side, one of my cousins had her thyroid removed because of something similar. And the recommendation was to remove it. But for me, I'm like, oh no, I can heal myself. I don't like to take medication or anything like that unless I really, really have to. And so I just thought, no, I felt like it was my hormones. I felt it was something within me that I could solve. And I thought, I just had a baby. Perhaps it's something with my hormones. And that was like, God, my daughter's 21 now. So it was that all that time ago, 21 years ago, that I had that, but it was my thyroid. So it was really interesting that you just mentioned that there about not having a voice, because I didn't at that.
And is it okay now?
I haven't, touched wood, I haven't had any problems with it since.
You know, it's so important to trust your gut, and you did there. So just listening to that inner voice, that inner tuition, your inner tutor will actually guide you. So we just need to start listening to it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I thought to myself, just knowing this is my body, if I take parts of my body off, it might resolve that problem, but what effect is it going to have elsewhere? And I just knew that, well, I'd read a few bits and pieces as well. I thought that it's something perhaps I can resolve myself. So yeah, it was just interesting that you mentioned that.
Well, I did the same. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroid after I had my son 22 years ago as well, and post-pregnancy. And again, I was a child who had my voice shut up as well, plenty of times. Being an Asian girl, I think it's quite common for us to go through that. But then during post-COVID, when I was actually healing myself, I managed to heal my thyroid just by, again, like I mentioned, just alchemizing those emotions that were stuck in my throat and allowing them to just move through. And that's when I knew this work actually worked. And then since then, helped many women actually reverse conditions like autoimmune conditions, gastrointestinal issues, chronic pains, chronic migraines, all those kinds of things. Because like I mentioned, if you can acquire it, then you can also unacquire it. So you can allow your body to heal, because that's what our bodies are. They do so well. Once we move out of the way and allow it to do its process, if we keep it stuck in the stress mode, there's no chance for it to heal, because you've switched the immune system off. But if you can bring your immune system back online, you can allow your bodies to heal the way they can. Yeah. And with good nutrition, good movement, keeping your stress levels down, sleeping well. Holidaying.
It all about what we do, doesn't it? What we do, what we put in our body, how we think, how we're feeling, how we're moving. Absolutely. It's just all about us, isn't it?
If you go back to the principles of lifestyle medicine, which are based on which I mentioned in our podcast as well, Louise, which was the 6 behaviors that are based on the blue zones across the world, where people live up to century old without any problems, without perimenopausal problems, etc. They are adopting 6 principles, and that is movement, nutrition, stress management, sleep management, relationships with yourself and with others, so your boundaries, etc., and then reducing your substance abuse. Those 6 pillars constitute good health. We just need to dial it in on those 6 pillars.
Yeah, I think with everything that we've all shared, but what you've shared and obviously what Karen shared with the different things as well, I definitely do the dancing and music is so movement, right? I don't really exercise apart from walking, and I do go swimming in the summer, spring with my son. Because of my hair, I'm not wearing one of those dodgy hats ever. I will. Can you imagine what I'd look like? Because I've got quite a small head. Can you imagine what I'd look like in one of those hats? It's okay. You don't have to be kind. I know I'd look like a Wally. So when my hair gets wet, I'm not going to be spending an hour in the changing room. So we do swimming spring, summer, so I can just walk out without catching my death, which is something my mum used to say if I walked out with wet hair. But I digress. But you ladies are absolutely brilliant. I really, really appreciate all of your time. I just wanted to touch upon the fact that we're missing somebody. Claudia, bless her, who's going through her own, terrible things with her family at the moment. But we wish her well, and we're thinking of her.
Definitely.
Yeah, sending you love, Claudia.
But yeah, I think we definitely need to do these as regularly as possible if you ladies are happy to, because we've only really scratched the surface with things. But thank you all. I love you all. I think we're all brilliant.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to meet you all.
No, you're more than welcome. I really, really appreciate it. I'll see if I can get a clip. What I'll do is I'll share it. Yeah. I don't know which one to do.
Heart.
Yeah, I like that one.
Smile.
Yeah, I do smile quite regularly. I end
You
up with face.
do.
Yeah.
I end up with face ache.
You'd cover your glasses if you did that.
Yeah,
That one, yeah.
because they're so big. But you're all brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
Lovely
much.
to meet
See
you
you
all.
there, Days.
Thank you,
My
everyone.
pleasure.
See you
Bye.
again soon.
Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.
Yeah, you too.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.